So,
all right.
Here we go. Welcome, everyone, to a very special Flyover Fallout. And I say special in a way that is, gosh, I hope you like it because it's going to be different than usual. It is me, Phil Grooms, here filling in for Santiago and Matt Baker, of course. And Justin Hordick is here to join me. Thank goodness,
Hello,
sir.
everyone. Happy to be back again.
Not just Justin, but Lily is here to join us. We've been trying to wait for her nap, and she's not having it today, is she, Justin?
Yeah, my daughter at my feet. So hopefully she falls asleep during the podcast. But yeah, she's a stubborn napper. It's not our first, not our first time.
That can be so frustrating. I was commenting on how calm you've been about the whole thing. So
yeah,
wonderful. Thank you again for pushing through. And I hope Lily takes it easy on you here.
She likes talking soccer too. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Calms her down, I think.
I like that. Well, yeah, once again, you are listening to Flyover Fallout. We're presented by Noble Ice Vineyards. Can't forget that. This is winery season. I hope you guys go check out their wines and get out to their beautiful vineyard and enjoy yourselves. But Justin, let's jump into this game. Obviously, if you're watching this, you know that it was a 2-2 draw against New England Revolution, and it wasn't without drama for sure. I think we're going to go over everything that happened, but, we'll start with the lineup, and then we'll kind of talk for a second before we jump into some of the big plays of the game. The lineup started for St. Louis. It was Berkey. Nerwinski came in again, rewarded at right back for doing such a good job last game. Kessler and Hebert at center back. Horn playing left back, even after putting in what was considered to be more minutes than hopeful. Pushed him on minutes. They said last time Horn did get the start. Durkin Leuven at D mid. Vasilev got the start at right wing. That was another one we were wondering would Thor start. Toykert in the middle, Hartl on the left, Betcher up top. No start for Klaus as of yet. But all of that did change quite a bit, and I'm excited to start talking about that. But Justin, any thoughts on the lineup itself?
No, yeah, I think it was pretty much what we expected, last week. Maybe a little bit surprised to see Nerwinski starting again. I thought maybe, but I think you got to reward him for that performance last weekend. So, nothing too mind-blowing, I think.
Completely agree. Let's talk about the Revs real quick. Vrioni starting up top, Barrero on the left, Carlos Gil on central, of course, at the 10, Langoni on the right. Matt Polster is the former, as Stuart said, the former SIUE player, playing along Ian Harks at center mid. Will Sands on the left, recently traded to the Revs. Tim Parker also, obviously, recently traded to the Revs. Romney, his center back partner, and Peyton Miller, the 16-year-old, at right back, playing a little bit out of position, I found out. And then what I consider the star of the game, Ivacic in goal, is relatively new, I think, to the Revs, but I don't know the history there. Justin, do you have any info for us? Because I'm not terribly familiar with them.
Yeah, I think he had not a run-in, but he had a disagreement with Portland last season, and they signed him in April as kind of an option, and then he's kind of come through in key moments for him. So, and obviously this weekend he was their biggest asset in a way.
Absolutely, I think so too. All right, well, let's jump into some of the things that happened. I think St. Louis got off to a very hot start. I think St. Louis looked like the better team for a good stretch in the very beginning, starting even before the first minute happened. Leuven this is one of my favorite plays of the game, and it happened so early. Leuven had an insular pass to Hartl, and Hartl, how many times we saw in this game St. Louis kind of circling the goalkeeper box, passing it around, and how many times have we seen that a team bunkered and St. Louis just can't do anything about it? And in the 55th second of the game, Hartl makes an insular run, a diagonal run, and Leuven, not only was that a smart move, but Leuven is good enough to hit him, making that run inside. And he had a cutback pass to Indy on the far side, not quite the top of the box, and he shot it wide. Everything I just said about that, this is stuff that St. Louis was not able to solve this problem, 6 months ago, were they?
Yeah, and I think we talked about last week about how, the way to beat this team like 6 months ago was to give them possession, and they would just not know what to do. And then you see in this game, especially with what Hartl can do with his runs and with the ball and just with his playmaking, how he links up with Leuven, like already you see progress being made in like the first foray forward. They get into the box and create something.
Yeah. And if I'm a bit of a jerk, I will say that, Indy being part of the original crew, not able to finish that one off. But that is something that has been improving as well, that, the finishing has been a lot better with the new lineup that we've gotten. So just something to notice there. It's not the last time we'll kind of mention something like that. In the third minute, Durkin got a long distance ball that wasn't terribly hard to handle. In the fourth minute, this is one of the worst giveaways of the game. Hebert gives it away kind of in the middle backfield, and it was light pressure from New England Revolution, but they were well positioned. It's kind of like, it felt like what I consider Minnesota's best qualities are on defense, is they were just kind of in position, and it was hard for Hebert to find a pass, and he did very badly there.
Yeah, I think they still had to figure out how to connect the center backs to the midfield, centrally, especially. That's kind of an issue that we see prop up, especially kind of as this half goes on.
Yeah, that's a good thing to notice. That's not something I notice a lot of. What do you think? Just like bringing another guy in and getting a better position to collect the ball? And typically, that's like, kind of been Durkin.
Yeah, and I think Durkin just like has a habit of advancing forward a little bit more than you would maybe want like your dedicated 6 to be. So like I think it's just like they maybe need someone to be that guy that stays home a little bit more.
Yeah, fair enough. In the 7th minute, just something to note. We mentioned probably not enough that, the big thing about this game was that Tim Parker and Kessler were playing against their former teams in this one. Just like a really crazy situation that happened to work itself into this season. And this was like the first time I kind of took note in the 7th minute. It was a bit of a long ball to Betcher, and Parker cleared it out for a corner. So a little bit of good for both sides there. It was nice that St. Louis got the corner, and they did well with it.
Battling. Tim Parker was battling all game. Yeah.
In fact, Justin, didn't we talk about aerial battles and like who, both teams had pretty good aerial duel stats, and how much of that was Parker? Here's a good example of that working out for them.
Yeah.
Hartle to Horn. This was a good corner. Hartle found himself in space, almost at like the penalty spot. It felt like unbelievable that he got just a total clear header on that one, and it went straight to the keeper, unfortunately. But good work getting someone open on a corner. That's we're going to see a little bit more of that soon.
Yeah, a harbinger of things to come on that corner. Yeah, but like both these first like 3 corner pieces they had were all very dangerous, and I think like onside pieces all night they're very dangerous.
Completely agree. In the 11th minute, Leuven turns it over. It's a risky touch from we get the ball, and this is a good turnover for Leuven. A risky touch from Peyton Miller, that 16-year-old right back, who I thought did really well in this game. And the risky thing, like I think they ripped him a little bit on the broadcast, but Miller was just trying to make a play, and unfortunately, one miss can be so dangerous. And so Leuven was able to find Horn running on. It was defended out for a corner, and I think Peyton actually caught back up to him and got that defended out. So, good on him, even though he made the mistake.
And I think they're trying to target him a little bit, especially early, for like a 16-year-old fullback to, be able to stand there. And even though there were some mistakes, to like, still play strongly for most of this match, like that's pretty strong, I think.
Very strong. Completely agree. 12th minute, Parker handball. What do you think? Yes or no?
I mean, I don't even know anymore. I thought that this one, I think just because like he doesn't really move his hand in a way or like move his body in a way where like it's unnatural. I think like just kind of standing there in his normal kind of stride and hits him. Like I'm cool with this no call. If I'm a New England fan, I'm maybe a little bit angrier at the end of this game. Like I think we'll get to it at some point, but yeah, I think this one was right. Maybe.
Yeah. It's a spectrum, right? And so,
what do you think, Phil?
Yeah, I tend to appreciate a no call. Even this one went against us, and I still appreciate there was no call because I just, no one's going out there trying to get a handball to win a game. So just like no call is the best way to go.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. Like I think, and the rule's not this way, so I'm not saying this in like the interpretation of the rule, but like in my head, like handball should be like a deliberate attempt to just stop progress in the box, but that's not what we see.
Right. And that's not how it's written. And we'll get to the other side of that when it's appropriate, of course. 20th minute, Horn gets a yellow. I didn't look how many yellows were in this game. It was at least 4 for St. Louis, and every one of them was like a tactical foul, actually.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the criticism with the refereeing that I have from this game too, from like both perspectives. I feel like I don't know what the threshold was between like a foul and a yellow, and I think it changed throughout the game. And if I was a like player, I would probably be a little bit frustrated on like what was a yellow, but anyway, yeah, I think this one was deserved.
Yeah, I actually think all the St. Louis ones were pretty well deserved, but I don't have a good memory of the New England ones, and I think a couple come up here, so maybe you can comment on that as we get to it. Or do you have something now?
No,
I thought he did okay on the yellows, but I don't.
Yeah, I think it was just like in my head, like I think the threshold of like fouls to yellows were not consistent.
Got it.
But yeah.
Okay. Duly noted. 21st minute, Indy gets a shot out for the corner. It was blocked. Again, more possession around the box. We're seeing a lot of that. And here is St. Louis getting something from it, a corner, and not just a corner, but this is the corner where Kessler was able to score a goal. Again, good design, Justin. What did you see here?
Yeah, good design, play, and like the body control from Kessler, because he's kind of like fading away as he jumps up to like get his head on the ball, and then the arc over the goalkeeper. It was a very visually pleasing, aesthetically pleasing corner kick.
Very much so. Yeah, Matt Baker leaned into the basketball fadeaway reference, and I thought it was well said. Perfect. Yeah, very pleasing aesthetically. Well said.
And like we talked about aerial duels, and here is Henry Kessler, who comes from New England, and they haven't had success scoring off set pieces, and then like I'd say, that's an Alex Langer special. I think it's our St. Louis' superpower for sure.
Absolutely, and kind of going against what I was saying, that maybe Parker was all of our stats. Here is Kessler doing a really good job with that. So awesome. In the 24th minute, Miller cuts inside and gets an easy shot off. This is that right back playing out of position. I assume he's an attacker based on what people have been saying normally, the 16-year-old. And the only thing of note here is that he went way too far, I think, and Berkey got pretty angry about it and started yelling at people. This is, felt like we scored and started taking it a little too easy, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think just like the organization, Hackworth kind of talked about it a little bit after the match, and just like his frustration, especially in the first half, was just kind of the intensity of which, after they score that goal, they do kind of drop off, and just, I don't know if it's letting the foot off the gas necessarily, but there's something missing in their execution that was fixed in the second half.
Yeah, we're going to dig into that shortly, actually, really strongly. In the 27th minute, Kessler slips, defending 1v1 against Langoni. Yeah, Langoni. It felt under control in this defense. Everyone was in their place, and it just felt like Kessler slipped, and that was it. It was a goal just from him slipping. I don't know if you felt otherwise, though.
Yeah, it's a bit unlucky, a bit unforgiving. But like it seems like he has it managed, but he just loses an edge on that turf. And, it was a little bit slick, I think. But like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
It happens, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think there's critique to be had from City in this game. I just don't want that one to be one of them.
I think he does get the corner on Kessler, and I think part of the reason he slips is because he's digging in to catch up, right? So
absolutely fair. 28th minute, shot from Hartle, easy save. 29th minute, great turnover. This is, a lot of people are like angry at St. Louis for sitting back too much, and we will touch on that, but here's like good pressing, St. Louis kind of pressing and tightening the noose slowly, a little bit closer on each pass. Turkic got a shot off, but it was extremely easy to save. So yet another, this isn't Ivacic having a great save. It was just like another easy one. But at this point, it was in the broadcast, they said that Ivacic has second most saves in the league. And we talked about how New England gives up a lot of shots. And so I don't know how much of that is okay or to plan, because clearly they're giving up bad shots in a lot of these cases, but it is what it is. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think like something just with their structure has been off at times this year. And as you see, as we've seen with St. Louis, like when the formation and like the spacing is off, it just allows for these shots to come in the box when they can exploit those spaces opening up.
Yep. Agree. The 31st minute, we have a few stats coming in. I just want to take note that it was 0.29 XG for New England to 0.52 XG for St. Louis. 2-7 on shots, 2-5 shots on goal. So St. Louis is dominating the game up to this point, and it's kind of funny that they put those stats in right there in the game because it was a bit of a turning point, wasn't it?
Yeah, and like I think this is, like you said, the turning point of like going into half. It felt like they were maybe a little bit lucky to be up 2-1 just because they had to like really just sustain this period of possession from New England.
Yes,
they're holding on. It felt like for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. In the 33rd minute, there's a couple of counters St. Louis gets. Toiker gets the ball at the end line in one of them, and he gets a cutback pass. This is one where Toiker chased it down and did a great job getting to the ball, cuts it back to a good spot. Leuven, first-time shot. This was a great save, blocked by Ivicic. That pass passed a couple players on the way to get to Leuven. So just really well done here, keeping it alive, getting a shot on goal. Pretty good XG on that one, I imagine. What do you think, Justin? Because it's about to kind of change.
Yeah, I feel like this was something that, when they get to halftime, they kind of hold it up as, this is how we can attack this, how we can be successful. And as you say, the 10 minutes leading into the end of the half, it definitely felt like they needed to change something.
Yeah. 36th minute, City starts sitting back. Pressure is absorbed after a scary moment with Nerwinski. And this 36th minute is like a carbon copy of how New England gets the goal. And it just felt like, I think on first watch, I was like, Jake's too high here. Why didn't he track back? But there was some confusion between, was Indy supposed to take the guy with the ball and let Jake, retreat and cover? Or also, it felt like City was like half pressing up to make sure they, double, triple teamed that guy with the ball and get a turnover. And they were able to break the press. And it was like this feeling like, the D-mids were pushed up. They do a better job of calling this out when the goal happens. But we might as well kind of put this together that in the 37th minute, it's like the same situation. Barrero gets in. He gets it crossed in. Oh, Lily.
It's going to be fun to edit. She gets so uncoordinated when she's tired.
Yup.
Okay, Lil. Okay, sorry for the crying baby. You're gonna
Not at all. No, she's doing really well. I was just talking. We have like a 2-year-old in our friend group, and it's like they didn't let her. We were like, no, let her run around in the house, and they're like, no, we'll just be waiting for like that bonk sound and a massive cry, like it's inevitable. Yeah.
It's because they get tired and then they like, they're just trying to hold on to things and then fall on their head.
Well, we'll start right there too. Okay. We might as well go into the goal itself. Well, first, really quickly, in the 37th minute, Barrero gets the ball, and it's crossed in. Sands is able to cross it to the top of the box to Barrero again, and he hits the post. So the 37th minute, this isn't the carbon copy chance, but it is a really good chance. It's out for a corner, and it's able to be taken care of. But here is the goal, right? The 39th minute, again, Heel gets past Nerwinski, and we're talking about the DMs had pressed forward, but they weren't like shutting everything down. They weren't close enough to get that turnover quite yet. Should Indy have tracked back? Should Jake have retreated? And, in City's identity, they want to press that ball, get a turnover, and push forward on the counter. And it didn't happen. So I don't know what you think, Justin, because I'm of so many different minds. And maybe this is what we're getting to is, are they supposed to be compact, sitting back, waiting for the pressure to come and turn it over? Or should we have seen Carnell? Carnell would have been like, why weren't there 4 people on this ball for a turnover? Are they caught in 2 minds here? Are they still figuring out what to do?
I think you kind of nailed it. Like they're caught between 2 minds of like what they want this back line to do. Because if you look at just the spacing in between, where Betra was and where the center back pairing was, there's a lot of open space. It's not very compact. So I think Hackworth wants them to be more compact. and that's where you see like the spacing open up, and then Carlos Gil is on the ball. He's not necessarily closed down. I think like Hebert does a pretty good job eventually closing him down, but he'll just like, he's so good. You can't give this guy any bit of space. And he hits that shot like through Hebert's legs into the far corner. So like, it's also a great effort from Heel on top of just the spacing breakdown.
Yeah, Berkey kind of watched it go in. I think he just kind of knew, either he thought it was going wide or he just knew he couldn't get to it based on his stance there. And Twellman did a great job breaking that down because, the point was, should Durkin and Leuven have pushed up and gotten that turnover or sat back? Because if they weren't up, then one of them would have been there to kind of give a double team on Heel as he tried to shoot that ball. And so,
I think they're trying to be aggressive. And I think, one of Durkin and Leuven has to decide, like, one of them has to sit back more. And I think, especially Durkin, his mentality is to get forward even when he is playing at that 6. So he's not necessarily like a true 6 in what you maybe need from that position. But yeah, I think that's where you see it play out.
Yep. A lot of guys came in this transfer window. On top of that, Hackworth has changed the system. So you could see this as like early season kind of mistakes. Maybe not. Something to watch, though, is watch how, are we going to be pressing harder? Are we going to sit back? Or is it just like some kind of a mid-block positioning problem? Something to watch in the future.
And we kind of asked Hackworth about it afterwards because it felt like to me when they went to the 3 in the back that things like changed spacing-wise. But he said it was more of a mentality thing and just like getting the players onto the pitch for the formation change. So like I think in his mind, it's just like getting the players to commit to what they're asking him to do defensively.
And as a fan, that's my favorite answer because I do want to see more intensity. That whole span we just mentioned, everyone looked a little bit laid back, even after they tied it up, it felt a little bit too calm and collected. So that's the answer I want. I like it. Thanks, Hack. Appreciate it. Maybe that change will happen and it'll fix everything.
Yeah.
Couple turnovers, quick transitions. Toykert had a shot blocked for a couple of corners in a row that happened. Dangerous corners, nothing came of them. For interest of time, we'll skip forward. Some weird injuries, too. Hebert got a bloody nose. I didn't see when this happened. At some point, Indy started limping and went off for a little while.
The Hebert thing, I didn't even see it on the replay. Like, he kind of gets into it with one of the New England players on the corner, but, like, I don't know where he got hit in the nose at all. And then, like, all of a sudden, he's just bleeding from just has a nosebleed.
Yeah, and it's not dry air. It was about to pour down rain. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
I'm sure he got hit. It just, like, I couldn't even see it on the broadcast. So it was just one.
His eyes were very, glossy, as if he got hit in the nose, that kind of thing.
Right.
So I imagine you're right. We just didn't see what it was. Yeah. But Indy came back in a couple things.
Yeah, we asked about this after the game too, and they said like Indy is just like a weird thing with, I guess, like in that tackle, he kind of gets tied up a little bit and he just couldn't put pressure. Like he couldn't flex his foot during that moment. Right. So like they said, it's not a big deal, or they're hoping it's not a big deal. So
absolutely. Right before the half, the only thing of note that really bothered me was Hartle was kind of in, and he was 1v1 versus someone, and it was like almost a foul. Maybe it was a foul, but he kind of went down easy instead of charging ahead. I would have liked for him to charge ahead, but it is what it is.
It's the risk you take.
Yeah. He's one of those high-end Ferrari type players, to be fair.
Yeah.
So, I understand the mentality there to some extent. And he makes up for it, of course. That's the half. Any thoughts on the first half, Justin?
Oh, yeah, I think like it's obvious. I think they're maybe a little bit lucky to be in at 2-1, but also like you could see the progress. And like going into the half, like my thought was that they were going to have to bring on different personnel. Like I thought Nerwinski did fine, but I thought maybe if you brought Tellin in on that right side, someone to push it up and someone to kind of be more mobile, it would be better. But like I think Nerwinski did fine on that right side. And then as you see the changes that will come, we're a little more impactful up top and just getting more attacking players on the field, it seemed like.
Yep, and we'll get to it. Thorson comes on at the half. This isn't the adjustment we're talking about quite yet, though. He played his part, of course, and the rain. It just started pouring.
I wonder how much of that like Indy injury kind of changes the plan also.
Yeah, and I mean, I made the argument that I thought Thor would be more useful in this game.
Yeah.
That wasn't well founded necessarily in the first half because there were several transition moments, Indy being in the right place at the right time. So not saying I was right, but Thorson shows some of his qualities being helpful in different ways as we go through here. Just, keep note that I was right, everybody, to some degree, is what I'm saying here.
Those assertions were correct, everyone.
Yeah. And I'm here to tell you that is true. 47th minute, quick passing, gets a ball to Horn. A good cross from him for a blocked shot. And see, I'm already defending myself here. Thor had a key pass here to Leuven for a blocked shot, I think after the cross or something, or the corner. But, Thor kind of looped a ball forward for Leuven, and the shot was blocked. That was just a nice move for Thor. I'm just defending him because everyone was really mad at him, rightfully so, but he did some good things here.
He gets into good spaces, and yeah, I think everyone,
yes.
The disappointment they may have is, I don't know if we get to it in the notes, but he gets to a point where he has kind of a shot on goal in a very close quarters and kind of lays it off. And I think that's the lasting impression of Thor from this game, unfortunately.
Yes. And we'll hit it a couple times. 50th minute, Vrioni draws a foul, their striker, number 9, and it's a yellow for Kessler. It was a long ball, and so I guess Kessler kind of went in a little hard. Vrioni did a good job of making a meal of it for sure. But it's a dangerous
and he kind
position.
of holds onto his arm as he's falling, and I think that's what the ref saw to call yellow.
Yeah, it's like a striker's foul for sure. It's the dark arts. The free kick was scary for me. Carlos Hill was on it, but it went over, so no big deal there in the end. 52nd minute, I just wanted to note that City's pressing was really good here. I'm always taking note of mid-block versus pressing versus sitting back, and this was a good moment of pressing. So I was glad to see that. I don't want that to go away.
It's worth calling out just because the pressing triggers are so obviously different under Hackworth than they were under Carnell. So trying to figure out, when the moment that they're going to press and when they're going to give that high pressure, I think is interesting.
Have you noted any of those triggers?
Not like I know they're different, but I don't know what I know one of them is like when they pass, back to the keeper, they're going to press high, and like when they're trying to play through the center backs, but sometimes they drop into the passing lanes as well. So it's not always that high press all the time.
It's been I've enjoyed trying to catch all the triggers and all the moves, and I'm still catching on. Again, I bring that up so I can make note of these kinds of things as I watch the game. 53rd minute, good passing on kind of a counter. New England is retreating to some extent. A long bouncing ball in the rain from Vrioni. This is New England's counter. Berkey bobbled it. That was like a weird one, and it seems like the rain is having a play here. Vrioni was smart to kind of put some movement and a bounce on it. So that was scary, but it was fine.
Yeah, it was kind of pouring at this stage. I think I didn't talk about it half, but when they're coming back from half, it starts pouring, and you just see everyone sprinting up the concourse to get into the covered areas.
Yeah, it was a decent crowd. And then my wife asked me how the crowd was. I was like, well, it's raining now, so let's not judge it based on what it looks like.
And I think they usually do have a good crowd. But Foxborough is such a cavernous stadium. It always doesn't do the crowd justice for how many people are there.
55th minute, Leuven misses on Holster defending him, and he kind of has to foul him. So Leuven gets a yellow there, if I'm not mistaken. 56th minute, Klaus is on for Horn, and this is where we start seeing the big change. Taylor Twellman, for my taste, was beating this tease into submission. Clearly he heard from Hackworth that this might happen, and he just could not be quiet about it. But it didn't happen at the half like he wanted, and maybe it would have been a good idea to put him in at the half. But just to give you the formation, I'll let you comment on it, Justin. At this point, we go 3 in the back. So Nerwinski, Kessler, and Hubert are the center backs. Horn is off, which I was a bit surprised at because he's played center back. So rewarding Nerwinski here again. Thor, Leuven, Durkin, and Hartle across the midfield. So that's Thor and Hartle kind of playing wing-back roles / midfielder roles. Torkert and Betcher are sitting in as 10s as I saw it, and it seemed like Twellman backed that up. Klaus seemed to be the highest player.
Yeah, and asking Hackworth about this too, because in my mind, this was a change because of how the spacing was going and just a change of formation. But to hear Hackworth say this was more just to get Klaus and the attacking players on the pitch and just not having the flexibility to put on another center back and make those changes. So And then Klaus kind of pushing forward, I think, does open up a lot of that space and behind that Betcher takes advantage of, as we'll see later.
Yes, well said. I was going to say the same thing. So we'll continue on. 57th minute, possession around the box again, at least to a shot that hit the post. This one hurt me, even though
scary. Yeah.
Yes. It was the best opportunity of the game, I think. I mean, it was
I don't know.
I liked it.
Like, yeah, you see him, coming down and taking that shot. Like, you're kind of expecting it just to be the keeper.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And I guess in a way it did beat the keeper. Who knows if he would have gotten to it if it was on goal. But again, this is, like I said, New England is bunkered in. St. Louis is passing around the box. And in the past, this is just like a non-issue. Nothing's going to happen or rarely happen. And this is Klaus coming in, showing his quality, being just a striker, doing just striker things, turning and shooting. Very dangerous. Good move. Could have been a goal, but it hit the post.
I like to see, I think we'll see kind of later on, as they're kind of building up pressure, that there like wasn't really any like hesitation in taking shots from distance as well, and just testing the keeper that way too, which I kind of liked as a trying different things and seeing what works. And Leuven has the shot from like way out that I think is just like nailed, and if they aims it a little bit more to one side or the other, it's a goal. But yes, it was interesting.
Loved that one. 58th minute, another yellow. I didn't note who it was in this case, but it was yet another tactical foul. Again, I thought they were all pretty well deserved for the St. Louis ones. 61st minute, more great passing, some panicky defending. I don't know what I said there, but Leuven had a wide angle, but a hard shot on goal. This is the one you're talking about, I think. The one that was from a distance. Really good shot. Could have gone in.
And like this is the moment before that second goal, it just felt like that they deserved a goal from like this pressure they had for like 10 minutes leading up to it, 15 minutes leading up to it.
Yes,
really like after the half.
The new players, Hackworth, clearly working on this kind of thing. This being the biggest improvement in St. Louis, and I think we can't take it for granted because yes, there have been some defensive problems, but we got to remember that that's also come with a lot of improvement in the attack. So. Finding that balance, improving in the right ways. Again, this is kind of a second early season, for St. Louis with all the additions.
Yeah.
I lost my place. Great commentary on this counter. This is something to watch. For the Thor haters, you're going to enjoy this. There was a counterattack with Thor on the ball, and there were numbers for St. Louis, and the center back for New England, Romney, had to choose who to cover. And I think most people would have covered the guy with the ball being Thor. He chose to cover up the pass to Klaus and force Thor to do something with it. And, he did some math right there, kind of added up everyone's talent and chose someone, and he made the right choice, right? Thor didn't quite make the right decision there. Not that this one was terrible, but there are some bad ones to come.
Yeah, he just needs to be less selfish, I think. And, like, you wonder if it's, like maybe a little bit of being gun shy from like previous matches, but there are a couple moments here where you just want him to like really put his foot through it.
Speaking of being selfish, here's one where he should have been more selfish. 67th minute, amazing passing, just like cutting through, quick passing. Klaus to Thor. It was like beautiful reverse pass, kind of at the top of the box. Thor's to his credit in a perfect position. Almost offside, not quite, wide open, and Klaus was good enough to get him the ball there, which was incredible. Should have shot the ball, and he tried to kind of send it gently, way too gently backwards to Betcher, kind of running on, but kind of covered. Ball gets defended out. That was really frustrating.
Yeah, that's one that, especially with the amount of pressure they had, you're kind of expecting that to at least be put in direction of the keeper.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just smash it, right?
Yeah, right.
Easy for us to say, but
just be a little selfish, put it on net. That's all I'm asking.
64th minute, Barrero is well defended by Jake Nerwinski. He probably got some hate from people, but I wanted to point out something he did really well in that situation. He had no help on that one. He did a great job. 65th minute, Alm comes in for Teukert. So Thor moves to the left. Alm is on the right in wingback roles. and just immediately Alm is forced to defend. And there's like Jake almost stepped forward to defend the guy, but he really wanted Alm to come over and defend him because it was a little bit outside 1v1. And it was the right choice. Jake told him what to do. Alm listened, and Alm did a good job. You know, it was defended out. Also of note in this change, Hartle moves central, I think, and we still have Klaus at the highest point and Simon Betcher supporting him. Any thoughts on this bit of a change? You know, the good defensive work from Alm and Jake in this situation, Alm having to play a defensive role to some extent.
Yeah, and like Alm coming on the right, throwing Thor over to the left. I thought it was interesting just to see kind of where Hackworth prefers these guys when they're all healthy. I think is important to note for future reference. Yeah.
And we'll do a few more of these, and then I think we'll talk about this looking good, right? 66th minute, Leuven shoots from distance again. Good on goal, good save. 8th save of the match at this point for Ivicic of note. So, you know, stuff is going toward goal. Again, New England gives up a lot of shots, but a lot of these are looking very good at this point, not like early in the game. 67th minute, Leuven sends it to the back post to Klaus. It's well defended, but Klaus was very dangerous. This is another reason we're very happy to have Klaus doing number 9 things.
Yeah, because even when, like, I think, you know, Klaus gets a lot of flack sometimes for just, like, not scoring, but the stuff that he does and just, like, opening up space and pushing that line forward, I think is so crucial, especially kind of to this game. You can see, like, when he's back healthy, how impactful it's going to be.
Yep. And, you know, we see Leuven kind of drop to that, like, just outside the box to either side and crossing the ball across to the back post. Having Klaus back, we're going to get a goal from that, I think, by the end of the season or early next season for sure, if Klaus and Leuven stay healthy, because it's just bread and butter at this point for him. Another one, it's a corner after that. Thor heads it. It gets headed a million times in a row, but Thor is the one that gets to head it on to Kessler, who's wide open in a similar spot to Thor. Kessler, to his credit, shoots it, right? It goes wide. But, you know, good positioning. Thor doing something good and just not getting in goal. 70th minute. Drop ball for Parker. This is a weird one. I just wanted to note it. That it was the ref got hit by the ball, and he drops the ball for Parker. And in a drop ball, it's open for anyone. And Parker just kind of sat on it like it was a free kick, waiting for a whistle, and Klaus tried to take it. Like, if the rules were absolute rules, like Klaus should have been able to steal that, but you know, it's not good gamesmanship necessarily, depending on how you look at it. So
I do kind of love it, but yeah.
Well done, Klaus. 72nd minute, pass forward with some momentum, passes forward. Hartle kind of sloppily passes it to Klaus, but it bounces and lands to Betcher kind of at the top of the box. Him running hard, arriving late as a 10 rather than a 9. This is kind of what you were saying, Justin. Hard and low, and it's a goal. It's 2-2 at this point.
Yeah, and just like you said, you know, Klaus opens up that space so Betcher can run in behind it and just get on that ball. I kind of asked him, like, afterwards why he feels like this run has been so successful for him. And he, you know, his big thing was just everyone's kind of working on the assumption that, like, the hard work will eventually pay off with kind of these results. And I think this is a result of Betcher's hard work of just, like, getting to that spot in that late arriving run, playing a little bit out of position of what, you know, he's been since arriving in St. Louis. And it's a good goal.
Yep. Another funny thing of note is the timed sub rule that I love. This is MLS. You know, I hate on MLS all the time. These rules need to be implemented everywhere in the world, and they're the first to do it. You, if you don't make it in off of your sub in time, you are penalized 60 seconds. And what I had forgotten is it's not just the 60 seconds, but after the 60 seconds happens, you have to wait for stoppage to come back in, like not like an injury. You have to actually wait for a stoppage.
Porter, not a fan of this after the match.
Hey, love it. We're going to talk about him maybe being right and understandably being angry. Yeah, suck it, Caleb. This is a good rule, and I love, and it resulted in the goal. They were down a man. You could argue that this gave St. Louis a goal, and, you know, St. Louis especially, when we're at home, it just feels like we constantly have people wasting time to try to, you know, win a game, and so it just feels good for this to happen.
Yeah, just to have the awareness. I think, like you said, that man down probably is the reason why the goal, just because the space that Betcher is able to run into is maybe not there if, you know, all 11 players are on the pitch. But take advantage of what's given to you.
Just a couple more, and then the game just slowly dies in the last 10 minutes. I didn't make too many notes there, but in 74th minute, there's a good turnover and a pass from Thor to Betcher. It was defended out. I didn't make notes. I don't remember whether that was really well done or not. In the 79th minute, Klaus gets a turnover, awesome turnover, makes a great play. Hartle to Durkin, but the shot was a great save. This was another great save from Ivicic.
Yeah, this is the point where it feels like they're just pressuring, but Ivicic just at this point seems like he's not going to get beat again.
Maybe we can empathize with how people feel about Berkey on a weekly basis in this case. That's all I could think is this must be what it must feel like to play against Berkey, where you feel like you've done enough to win.
Yeah.
Yes. So props to him for having a good game, even though it hurts us quite a bit. A foul. It's Hartle versus Sands in the box, and this. So we got to go on and on about this. So the handball happens with Hebert, and the play just goes on. It's noted, and they're a bit surprised. Oh, maybe that wasn't called. They're not going to call that handball. But then the ball gets to the other side, and St. Louis has it in New England's box. Hartle scores a goal after bodying Sands off the ball. And he scores a goal, starts celebrating, and they kind of bring him back. And so you think, they're going to check that foul of Hartle versus Sands. And then all of a sudden they start talking about, oh, no, they're going to go look at this handball from Hebert. And so, Justin, when you're back, we'll ask you about that. Or do we need to take a bit of a break here? I'm going to edit all this out, obviously.
No, we're good. Sorry, my computer's dying. I just had to grab my charger. We're good.
I'm up for whatever, man. You guys are being amazing. We're getting to the end here.
Good. I was obviously ill prepared. Okay. Hold on.
Okay, all good. Sorry, Phil.
No, not at all.
But yeah, my whole thing on this play, because obviously, you can only go back and look at it in the stoppage play, right? And there's just so much going on here. The players, when we asked them about it afterwards, were pretty sure that they're looking at the foul to see if it was a good goal. And the fact that the offside flag comes up and Joe Dickerson doesn't blow his whistle right away. So Hartle is about to get a yellow for taking his shirt off in celebration, which if that's their goal, he probably takes. But and then so they go back, they look at the handball, which I think is a handball. I don't know if the current interpretation of the rules how you can say that wasn't a handball, but I'm not going to complain in this moment. I think Caleb Porter is maybe a little bit justified to be. Maybe goes a little bit overboard, but a little bit justified to be angry about this call.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like I said earlier, on one hand, I prefer it to not get called. And, I'll take it in this situation too, because he wasn't outright trying to change the play with his hand. It was an accident, but it was out of a natural position. And so on one hand, I love the no call, but it was a handball. It's going to be, will be called a handball in every single game this year if it were to happen 10 times, basically.
Yeah, it's like we talked about earlier, Phil. It's in an ideal world, that's not a handball because it's not necessarily there's no intent there. But with how the rule is written and with how majority, 95% of the time it's called, it's a handball. So I don't know what they're looking at.
Well, let's get to it. Caleb Porter made some big statements. I'll cut it down to one little paragraph here, and you guys will understand the rage that was just being spit here by Caleb after the game. His last kind of statements were on the topic. I've never seen anything like it. Porter continued, the referee was a complete coward in that moment. Complete coward, and it was a travesty. He shouldn't officiate. He cost our players 2 points today, 2 really important points, and I'm not going to stand for it. I don't care if I get fined. I don't care what MLS Commissioner Don Garber says. What Don Garber needs to do is look at that situation, look at the official in that situation, and needs to be held accountable in this situation. Boy, those are really strong words. He's very angry, but I think we agree. It's righteous anger, right?
Yeah. Bringing up Don Garber's name. Yeah, I mean, it's he's okay to be this mad. I think if I was a coach in this situation, I'd be understandably like fuming. Maybe a little bit overboard. Not quite Vanni Sartini levels, but he might get a fine for this one, I think.
Yeah, it was unfortunately more ranty than it should have been. I cut out a bunch of other, word, salad, but. And
it's assuming that they make the pen. It's a lot of assumptions there on the drop points aspect.
Yeah, I heard some comments about what Berkey would have done in that situation. None of them were positive, but to be fair, you're right. There was a chance.
Are you saying that he hasn't saved a penalty ever? Is that what they're saying?
You said it, not me. You said it, not me. So yeah, in the broadcast they're saying things like this could change the Revs season to back up Porter, absolutely. That could be a season-changing decision. Season-changing. So a big deal. They're in the same spot as us, 13th in their division, trying to make the playoffs. Granted, they have a lot of games in hand compared to us. So couple more things. I'll rush through these because I want to just kind of talk about some of the stats at the end here. Talking about Tim Betcher being all over the place, top 5 in distance covered in the game. 86-minute Reed comes on for Betcher, and Thor kind of moves central, and Reed kind of takes his position on the left.
Yeah, so they go from the 3 in the back to more, your traditional. Oh, Lily.
Oh, sorry, Lily. We're almost done, darling.
But yeah, it's like I think Simon Betcher, just in general, has been such like an unsung hero for a guy that you maybe weren't expecting a ton from in that loan. But he's been like so effective every match.
It's been nice to hear MLS pundits say how good he's been, unexpectedly. So, great. We got a couple charts here with stats. I thought we'd look at this passing diagram and anything you see from this. We're seeing. I mean. It changed a lot, so what we're seeing here actually doesn't well represent the second half necessarily.
I noticed this last week too. The partnerships between the center backs and the fullbacks and Berkey, I think, especially the last couple of weeks, have been very strong. I think at times this year, Lily's making her voice known about it, but I think at times this year you've seen that connection not be so clear, and especially as they're trying to kind of figure out positioning and moving the ball around. I think that's a positive in terms of that outer shell.
I agree. And we're seeing, the wings left seems to be moving super high with Reed in the game. That is definitely true, but it was interesting to see that with Horn, though how much of that was the 3 in the back situation. Hard to read on that one.
Yeah.
But, looking at the goals, the XG, it just felt like a game that St. Louis deserved to win as far as performance, as far as the attack.
And and if you look defensively, they only allowed 0.01 expected goals on target in the second half. And anytime you have that strong of a showing defensively in a game that's like a close game, I think, more often than not, you're winning that game.
Yep. Especially 20 shots to 11, 9 shots on goal to 4. I mean, come on. A lot of good stuff there.
I talked about it a little bit in my article this week about how if this is earlier in the season and they aren't in such a crunch just to win out, basically, you're probably looking at this in a positive way as opposed to with a little bit of dread because time is just simply running out.
Yes. Yeah. Possession 55% to 44. That's all good. Clearly New England forced St. Louis to possess the ball, but they were able to do enough with it to force New England to not just sit back and wait. Aerial duels 9-9, just to kind of put a cherry on top of that conversation.
Yeah. Anthony, Kessler had a couple moments outside of that corner too, and on other set pieces where he's kind of targeted using his height in the box to their advantage.
Another thing of note, 9 saves for Ivacic by the end of the night. Only 2 for Berkey. So interesting stuff.
Ivacic is really good. asked to do a lot, and especially on those like shots from distance. I think a lot of times just because like if you look at it statistically, it's not going to show up as much. But like those saves on those shots from distance, I think are more impressive than they're sometimes given credit for.
Yep. And lastly, looking at this defensive chart, clearances.
I know, Will. Yeah. Okay, sorry, Phil. Thanks for being patient.
No, not at all. I'm so glad you've made it. I think we'll close it. We'll close it with this. Looking at the defensive chart, we're seeing 30 clearances from the Revs versus 16. Block passes 13 on the Revs side. A lot of tackles from St. Louis, and you look at where the defensive actions are happening.
Yeah,
a lot of it's in the midfield and a decent spattering in the attacking third for St. Louis. So the pressing is still happening, but we're seeing a lot more density of defensive actions in the middle and in the box.
Yeah, and it's like we kind of talked about earlier with those like different pressing triggers that they're sometimes looking to clog up the lane as opposed to just being like full frontal, always running at the goalkeeper, always running at the back line. Hopefully that point came through.
Yeah. Well, I think we should call it there. Poor Lily is. I think it's time. Like she's ready.
Yeah,
for bed. You guys have been really bored. You guys have been really brave, and it's been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. Did you want to say anything else before we go, Justin? Or
no, I just say that like I said earlier, I think it's one of those things where if you're allowed to zoom out a little bit of this game, then like it's maybe a little bit more of a positive as opposed to like now you're looking at it as an opportunity of drop points from a leading position again when you score the first goal. It's maybe a little bit disappointing. All right, so we're gonna call it.
Absolutely. Thank you for making it this far, guys. Hopefully I got some of that edited out, but some of it is just unavoidable.
All right.
Lily has been amazing. Thank you, Justin.
Bye, Lil. Yeah, thanks,
Talk
guys.
to you next time, man. See ya. I will just put a chair, close up the rest of this. I think the only thing we didn't cover, I apologize to you guys for that being the way it was, but I'm so glad we were able to get a Fallout in. It has been a crazy couple of weeks with Matt being so busy. All of us still have our crazy schedules that we've cut back on. And so just fitting in a show at all has been really difficult. And so I hope you guys are good with going with this one. I think the last thing I wanted to mention, that things for us to kind of think about as we leave here, is looking at the first half, what it looked like, things to improve on. Like we said, do we need to tighten up the defense, and which way do we tighten it up? More pressing, more mid block, more absorbing of pressure in and around the box. What does that look like, and how do we tighten that up all the way as the rest of the season goes through? Playoffs probably over? Question mark. Can this tightening up happen well enough to make the playoffs? Do we care anymore? Do we just focus on improving and making sure that that's good for next year? I think that's where my brain is kind of automatically going, with just a glimmer of hope in the background. And lastly, first half versus second half, 3 in the back looked so dangerous. And was there much of a drop off defensively? How much of that was New England Revolution not pushing, and how much of that was St. Louis putting so much pressure on and still being able to defend with 3 in the back? So just things to think about, stuff that I'm going to kind of wake up in the middle of the night wanting to think about. And, that's where I find the fun, is to kind of argue about these kinds of things. So let's have these conversations. Playoffs or not, there's still a lot of interest to be had here. So again, thanks for making it to the end of this show. It's Flyover Fallout. We're Flyover Footy is the podcast, of course. We are presented by Noble Ice Vineyards. Thank you for joining us. Matt's back after this, guys. Thank the heavens. You're going to get all your detailed data, all your detailed stats being used in a way that I know you guys really appreciate from Matt. I hope you guys have enjoyed us filling in and doing our best to keep up with him.